All right, everybody, what's up? This is the On Mind podcast. I'm Greysen.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are talking about one of our favorite music artists of all time, Daft Punk. As probably most of you know, they broke up recently. They were together for 28 years. And
that's crazy.
they had known each other since they were little kids, though. Like, they grew up together.
Wow, I didn't know
that. Really sad stuff. I guess it was last week that they announced it.
I think it was last week Monday. Which by the time
what was the date?
By the time it was 2 weeks. Let me check that out real quick.
Because 1 week ago means nothing to people listening.
Yeah. It was February 22nd, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's right. So, yeah,
R.I.P.
I was in one of my favorite coffee shops, Barista Parlor, doing some work. I was writing some emails. And I see this guy that I follow on Instagram like post a picture of what did he post? No, he posted like he shared homework to the album Homework, not his homework.
Yeah.
Homework with like a broken heart emoji on his Instagram story. And I was like,
this can't be
good.
What
What does this mean? And so I instantly like just go to Google and type in Daft Punk, and like I saw that they had broken up. I immediately texted two people. I texted my friend Christian and I texted Mike. And I was like, to both of them, I was like, have you heard the news? Or like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in class at the time, and like I was bored out of my mind. I was in a 4-hour Zoom class, and I was like, this is so boring. So I watched the video and everything. Like,
they it was crazy. They released an epilogue video, which was kind of like a continuation, or like, I don't know. They used a lot of same scenes from their movie.
Yeah.
That they released back in
forever ago.
I don't know when that movie came out.
Yeah, sometime in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And they also used it for the Veritas Quo music video.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was super emotional. I was crying in the coffee shop I was in.
Oh man.
I was just like, it was rough. I'm sure people are like, what is this freak doing over here in the corner of this place, like crying over his laptop?
Oh my gosh. I can just like see it like in slow motion. Like you open up the video, the coffee cup like falls to the ground slowly. A tear, a single tear just goes down your face, hits your keyboard. Like I can just see it.
Shorts out my computer.
Yeah. Not only was Daft Punk dead, but now is your laptop.
Gosh, dude. So for those of you who don't know, Daft Punk they're two guys, Tomas and Guy Man. I'm not gonna say Guy Man's whole name because it's like a giant name.
Yeah, it's unpronounceable. That's American.
So we're gonna. Most people just call him Guy Man.
Yeah.
And they grew up in France. They actually started like working on music together. I want to say like after high school. They were like, "Hey, you want to like do something?" And the other guy was like, sure, let's do something. And they had each, their first instrument that they ever got each was I think was a keyboard. And they learned kind of music structure off of that. And then they each also got a guitar. And I can't remember which one said this was like the most like influential thing of his life. But he said like getting a guitar like changed my life.
Wow.
And it was definitely like the starting point for him. So yeah, they end up making a rock band together. I can't remember the name of the rock band right now.
Oh, it was with somebody else who became pretty successful, too.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was.
Sorry guys, I don't have my AirPods today, so I'm using these corded guys to listen to Mike speak. So that's what
let me see if I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. What should be like DJ Khaled or something.
Well, their rock band like split, and
well, yeah, so they no, I'll let you go. Just you go ahead. Actually,
yeah, the rock band
save what I was gonna say for later.
And one of the guys because it was like a trio, it was them and this other dude. He went on to start his own thing and named it after one of the songs on Homework, and got like really popular, like his band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's sick.
I can't remember the name of it though.
Well, if you find it, then definitely let me know, or definitely like say it, speak up. But they had kind of quit the rock band, and they got a review from a music critic that called their music Daft Punk music.
Yeah.
Which like is so sick. That's so sick. Because like Daft means something on its own, and like punk means something on its own.
Yeah. Okay, I found it. Sorry.
Oh yeah, what's up?
It was Brankowitz left the group in pursuit of efforts with fellow Parisian band Phoenix.
Oh no way!
Yeah.
I used to listen to Phoenix all the time.
Like I've never listened to Phoenix, but I definitely like, knew of them. But yeah, so I don't know who it is on there, on Phoenix. Like I don't know anything about Phoenix, but I just know the name. But yeah, he used to be part of Darlin, which was their like trio.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Before they were Daft Punk, but yeah, and it's named after one of the songs on the Homework album.
That's so sweet. That's so awesome.
Isn't that crazy? It's just
yeah,
crazy,
it really is. I didn't know that. I'm glad that you knew that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they formed their duo Daft Punk off of that review, and their first album was 1997, named Homework.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty great debut album. Like it's pretty fantastic, and it's pretty strange. Like it's not like a normal album that you would like debut your art with.
You know what's kind of weird about that album? That one's the one that I've probably listened to the least out of all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I listen to it a lot. It's probably not the one. I mean, I definitely don't listen to it the most, but I definitely like keep it on my rotation.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like it's like mainly synths and like a drum machine, and they just like do as much as they possibly can with those two things. Like it's more than that, but there's like no vocals, and they just like go hard on that album. It's my favorite track off that album is Rollin' and Scratchin'.
Oh yeah.
And It's so crazy. It's just like, honestly, okay, so there is this genre of music that's pretty new. I mean, like within the last 10 years, and it's in the last 2 years it's gotten really popular, called hyperpop. And what it is like clip music. So when you say when you're speaking into a microphone, and the levels get above what your microphone can handle,
Yeah.
it's the audio starts to get distorted, and that's called clipping.
Yeah.
So that's what all the music does, and that's what they did in that
How
song.
does that sound good though? Like that's so weird.
I don't know. I love it. I really love it. I'm working on some hyperpop music right now. Actually.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, I'll have to listen to it.
Yeah, you will.
And check it out. See, when you mentioned that, it just reminds me of the. I don't really know if I want to say it on the podcast because it's a bit of a, not so YouTube family friendly word. But remember the ear rape that I used to play?
Oh yeah.
I would just play like everybody knows like what it is, but I used to just like when we were in college together, I'd play like a normal song, and like about 10-15 seconds in, it would just like start blaring super distorted, and it would annoy the crap out of Grayson, and it made my day.
It was awful. It was like the worst thing ever. That's so funny. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, dude, please stop. And it would be like the same 3 songs too. It wouldn't like, I don't even know. That's funny.
It was so great. That's what makes me think of.
So I think that song "Rollin' and Scratchin'" was really influential to today's hyperpop. If you like it, you should listen to it right now after you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Go listen to it right now.
Write it down.
Yeah. So yeah, after, well, what do you have to say about Homework?
Really not much, besides the fact that back then they didn't have their helmets yet, which to me is just weird.
Oh, true. Yeah, this was pre-anonymous.
Yeah. There is interviews with them though from like the Homework era where they didn't wear helmets, but they wore like a bag over their head.
Oh yeah, no, there was a short period of time where like between no mask and mask, they wore like sacks over their head, like kidnapping sacks.
It looks like kidnapping. Yeah. I remember watching the interview. I was like, what is this?
I know. It's so strange.
It's so weird. Yeah. It's just really, really funny. I mean, it's like there's some kind of like hostage victim sitting in on this interview, which, I mean, maybe that's a statement in and of itself.
Could be.
That could be something pretty deep. But anyway, that and the fact that they had like the dog thing for all of their music videos for Homework. Yeah. I hate that dog mask. Like I literally hate that thing so much.
No, it's really bad.
It's really bad. Really creepy. not gonna lie. But I would like to say the samples. Okay, just in all of Daft Punk's music, the samples.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant to say, like synths, drum machines, and samples. That's what made that. Those 3 components made that album. Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. But like, there's samples that people are still finding today from albums.
Yeah,
like,
it's
especially like from Discovery. I mean, that album came out in 2001, and today people are still finding samples in it that are like super obscure, but they're definitely there. Like 20 years later, like that's crazy. That's crazy.
Which brings us into their next album, Discovery. This is really the album that put them on the map.
Yeah.
And kind of, well, like Homework was popular in Europe, and Discovery was also popular in Europe, but it also like crossed the waters to America.
Yeah.
And that's when Daft Punk really started to gain some attention in the States. And it's like definitely more of a poppy album.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. It's probably my favorite. Like all time, like currently it's not my favorite. There's one that comes out later that is my favorite. But or like current favorite. But all-time favorite, I'd say consistently it's Discovery.
Yeah.
You just cannot go wrong. Like every song on that record is like there's no skips.
Yeah.
Like you do not get bored or overwhelmed or underwhelmed at any point.
It is so good.
During that album. I would like go to say that it's like almost a perfect album, actually. Here, let me like point out some songs on there.
First of all, my favorite song on that album is probably Aerodynamic.
Oh, really?
The guitar portion, just like every time I hear it, it just blows my mind. Like,
yeah.
And the way that different parts of that song are separated by like the bell, because at the very beginning you have like the bell goes off.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes into the song, and then midway through you get the bell, and it like the song like starts to like go like I don't know how like else to describe it, but like kind of like calms down, and then it slowly like builds back up to the crescendo, and then you get the bell and it's over. And like I love that song so much. Like that thing is crazy. To me,
yeah.
I go back and forth between Discovery and Random Access Memories as my favorite album. Those two
for sure
just like are so good.
I love them
both so much.
My favorite Daft Punk song is Veritas Quo.
Yeah.
And it's on Discovery.
Yeah.
It's 100% my favorite. I just can't say enough good about it, dude.
Dude, that song, like every time I listen to it, that's another one that I really love. Like that's probably my second favorite song on the album. It's just like every time I listen to it, it just like puts me in such a vibe. I don't know how else to describe it. That song is like literally like, oh, I love it so much. I can hear it right now. It's just so good.
I know.
So good.
Some other great songs off of it is Face to Face. I really love Face to Face. Of course, the opening track, One More Time. That's just like
More time. Boom, boom. That song is just perfect.
It's just like such a incredible like album opener.
Yeah.
And the sample on that song goes so hard. It's so crazy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I watch that sample video of like there's a guy on YouTube that explains that sample. I watch it like consistently.
That's awesome.
Especially in the past like week. I've just been consuming Daft Punk media for the whole past week.
Oh, real quick, we did skip over one song that I really like in Homework.
Oh yeah.
Going back. Around the World. I love that song so much. It's so repetitive.
Oh yeah.
But man, I love it. And yeah, Around the World is just such a great song. Yeah.
I also this is a song that I keep forgetting is on Homework. I always think it's on Discovery. And so I said I misspoke earlier. I said there's no vocals on Homework. There are. There's just not a lot.
Yeah. There's not a lot of vocals on Discovery. Well, no, there is, but they're all like sampled.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them like talking in like their auto-tune robot voice, which I actually really like a lot.
Me too. But yeah, like also Too Long off of Discovery. It's the ending track. It's like a perfect way to end.
Too long.
In that, I don't know. Daft Punk just... Well, I haven't been a fan of Daft Punk for a super long time. Only maybe like 3 years, honestly. But in those 3 years, like I've come to appreciate their music for... Like they're in my top 5 music artists of all time. They like have been like so influential to like my creative thinking and like the way I listen to music.
Yeah.
Like, and they really changed the world and changed music in a broad sense. And any major artist would probably say the same. Like they did songs with like giant stars like Pharrell and The Weeknd.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you do a song with Pharrell, I mean like you have made it. Pharrell is an icon. He's like one of the smartest people I can think of, honestly.
Really?
Especially when it comes to music. Yeah. If you have you ever listened to some of his interviews?
I have not.
He's brilliant. He just knows so much.
Mm.
There's an interview with him and Rick Rubin. And Rick Rubin is like one of the greatest music producers of all time. He did like all of the Red Hot Chili Pepper stuff. He did
Oh wow.
I mean like I'm like blanking. He did like Backstreet Boys. Wait. No, somebody's going to roast me. I don't think that's right. I think he did NSYNC. He did like Britney Spears stuff.
Wow.
And like he did like Slayer from like in the 80s and 90s, that like metal band. And he did like some of Metallica's stuff, some of Slipknot stuff. He's like a monster producer. Like he can do anything. And he has an interview with Pharrell, and it's so good. Moving on. Cool. This is not about Pharrell. This is about Daft Punk. Yeah. So I think most people would say that Discovery is their favorite. And then moving on to their next album, they like released some like kind of random
there's
things.
Some like singles, and like they've got that their first they also had their first live album back in 97, which we kind of skipped over, but like their live albums are good, but like it's not new, so yeah. Human After All isn't my favorite, but I wouldn't say it's like, I mean, it's definitely not anywhere near bad like at all. It's a very good album, but it's kind of for me.
This is my favorite album of theirs.
Really?
Well, currently okay. It is. I don't know. It's so hard because I really do love this, but I think honestly, I think I might put this in front of Discovery.
Really?
Like I've been listening to it a lot this week.
Yeah.
And it like hits me in a different place than Discovery does. Like
this
Emotion.
Album is like really energetic too.
Yeah, the ending song Emotion, like literally, like no pun intended, but it literally makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Like it's so good. And my second favorite song is on this album of theirs, and that's Robot Rock.
Oh, I love that song, man. That is like the highlight of this album. It's so good.
It's so good. The like drum, the drum fill in the very beginning, and then the guitars.
God. So good. Robot Rock. It's so awesome, man. So this album is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. No,
On Off is crazy. Television Rules the Nation. You just can't. I don't think you can go wrong with this album. I don't think it's as consistent as Discovery is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's more of an eclectic album, and I just love it. I just love it a lot. And then you have
really good.
Oh, true. We're like saying like pretty much every.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just this is all good. And pretty much every song, yeah.
And that came out in 2005.
Yeah.
So you have to think, like, they were kind of doing a lot of advanced things on primitive software.
Yeah.
Like now we have there's dozens and dozens of music software that you can make like some incredible music on.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of stuff.
Dude, when this album came out, like, I mean, it's just crazy to think like how they were able to make all this with what they had.
Yeah, and they
in 2005, man.
So from like in the 90s, they were like kind of moving away from tape recording, like recording music onto tape, and they didn't have computers with software yet, so they were recording it onto like consoles and mixing music on consoles.
That's crazy.
If I'm right, I like don't know a whole lot about this, but it's one of the most interesting times for recording music, in my opinion. Like, I think, like, the 60s were, and the 60s and, like, early 70s were, like, a super influential time for music recording.
Yeah.
And I don't think music recording got interesting until the 90s again, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, just because like there was that shift of like a little bit new technology. You're not using as much tape, but you don't have like your digital workstation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my take on it. But really cool. Like I don't know. Some of the things they do especially in Discovery, just kind of blows my mind. That was in 2001.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's really easy to kind of take their music for granted a little bit nowadays, just because, I mean, well, it's almost like what happened with, like, I have to bring it up every time, with Star Wars, right? Like, or even like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like, these movies like defined a whole genre. I feel like Daft Punk defined their genre, and like everything else after them just tries to emulate or copy them in some way.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, you almost, when you hear their stuff, it's not like nowadays, like, it doesn't seem like it's like so amazing, even though it definitely is. Like, it's still really amazing, but it's just kind of like, oh well, there's so much else like it. But it's like, no, these guys were the first ones. They like defined the genre, man.
And they were like, there was really nobody else doing this type of stuff. Like, they paved the way, and they were just like ahead of their time. With every album, I think they were ahead of their time. Whenever it was released.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. But moving on, we're trying to keep this episode a little more short. Hopefully we achieve that. Moving on, I do want to speak to Alive 2007, because I love that album. It's a live performance, but the way they like mix all the songs
it's
together,
so
like,
good.
No, it's like watching like it's listening to DJing at its absolute peak.
Yeah.
Like, if you are into, well, like, number one, if you're like into like DJs and like kind of crossing songs together, like you would like hear in a club or something.
Yeah.
This album does that to a whole nother level.
It's insane.
It's
the way they blend their music is just like it's almost like they designed their music to work like this, which I'm sure they did. But I mean, this
Yeah, because
album's
they're geniuses.
it's probably one of the best live albums ever.
I would say so. My the only other album that comes to mind a live album that comes to mind, I'm probably forgetting something pretty important, but is Nas's Illmatic.
Yeah.
It's a rap album, and I don't really listen to that much rap anymore, but that live album is so crazy. Highly recommend you listen to it if you like rap.
Yeah.
But we won't spend a whole lot of time on Alive 2007, but I definitely want to mention it.
The first song though, with Robot Rock, like that is the one of the greatest intros ever to like a live album, like period. Like it is like,
Yeah.
oh, so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it's a real treat. Like it is a real treat.
I'll let you go into the next one because this one is all you.
Yeah. Like okay, so their next album technically is the Tron Legacy soundtrack album, and like, oh man, this is what put Daft Punk on the map for me. Like I didn't know who Daft Punk was till I watched the movie Tron. And like just for context, the Tron Legacy, it's not the original Tron. Tron Legacy came out in 2010. And it didn't do so well in the box office. It wasn't as big of a hit as Disney wanted it to be. But to me, and apparently a lot of other people like our age, this movie was like it had a big impact on them, and it definitely had an impact on me. It's kind of funny when I go through YouTube now, just like because I've been looking up a lot of Daft Punk stuff, a lot of Tron stuff has come up, and I didn't realize, but Tron has like a serious like cult following from people our age now. It's kind of crazy, like and because Tron didn't do so well, they were planning on making more of them, and it was going to be like a big franchise for Disney, but it just again it made a profit, but it didn't make enough of a profit for Disney to continue to sink money into it, which is a real shame because despite that movie's flaws, I still think it's really good. But what made that movie was definitely the soundtrack. Like the music that Daft Punk made is so different from anything they've done so far, but it's just beautiful.
It's also different than pretty much every music score ever.
Yeah, no, it is completely unique, and I think it's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Like it's up there with like John Williams and Howard Shore and like all the other incredible musicians and composers. This album just is incredible. And it also has my favorite Daft Punk song on it, which is Derezzed. That is my number one favorite Daft Punk song. Wow. The complexity of that song. Like, it's really short, but it's the most fast-paced song I think Daft Punk's ever done. Like, it is so fast-paced. Just the complexity of it, it is an incredible song. And yeah, another really great song is The Son of Flynn is really good. I remember that to me is what got me into Daft Punk. That scene where like Sam gets on his motorcycle and starts like driving around, like at the very beginning, and just you hear the music, it just like blew my mind. It was literally, that song was like the gateway drug to Daft Punk for me, and then from there to like all kinds of other electronic music. But yeah, this album has probably been more influential to like my music taste than any other album.
Yeah. That's crazy. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with that album. I've listened to it maybe like 2 or 3 times. But I mean, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes,
and I watched the Tron movie the other day. Again, movie's not great, but the soundtrack really does make it.
Yeah. It's to me it's worth a watch, but don't expect to have like incredible cinema. It's a fun action movie, And
yeah.
for the most
You just
part,
don't.
the effects I feel like have stood the test of time, except for like the CG face has not like
It
has
hasn't aged well.
it has not aged well. But all the other effects I think have aged really well, especially like when any
Yeah.
of the programs get like killed and their body like disintegrates into like glass shards. That effect is
Mm,
still like incredible. It looks so
that's
good.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Um, moving on to the next record, which is currently my favorite. Not my all-time favorite, but it's currently my favorite. Is Random Access Memories,
Yeah.
and it's it just really like this album shows that like Daft Punk can like keep the genre but change the genre at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, they brought in one of the greatest composers of our generation. His name is Giorgio, and he was influential on this record. I actually listened to not a podcast, just an interview with Giorgio yesterday, and just like listen to him like talk about how they wanted to like make the songs, and it was just really insightful. He wasn't the like Tomas and Guy Man weren't like super 100% open and transparent with him.
Yeah.
They kind of kept him in the dark with some stuff, which I think is really interesting because I don't know.
It's
It's
just
probably
cool
a
how
little
secret they
difficult
are.
on yeah. It's probably a little difficult on Giorgio's end,
Yeah.
but something I so Giorgio has, I think it was the second or third track in the album.
Let me.
He has
Yeah.
like there's like an interlude where Giorgio is speaking and he's explaining the album pretty much, which I think is brilliant. Like who does that? Like nobody does that.
Yeah.
It's so unique. And he explains that like they want to use they want this album is influenced from the 50s, 60s, 70s, like and
The future.
then like the future.
Yeah.
Um that's like the main point that he makes in his little blip. But something really cool that I learned yesterday in his interview about that part is that the audio in when he was speaking is recorded from 3 different microphones. Did you know this?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Ah, dang it. They used a microphone from the 40s. Then they used a microphone from the 70s. And then they used like a really experimental microphone that
like
was supposed to
brand new.
represent the future.
Yeah.
And nobody would ever know that.
Yeah.
Like nobody like listening to that album, especially if you're not listening to it and if you're not listening on like super high fidelity speakers, you'll never hear that nuance. But like they do.
Yeah.
And it's just like the attention to detail is over the top. And they like brought in so many like just classic instruments like the Fender Rhodes piano keyboard that like one of the in my opinion is like one of the best keyboards ever made and one of the most classic like vintage sounds ever.
Yeah.
And like the session musicians that they used on that just like they go so hard. That drummer like literally tears through the entire album. I just cannot
It's pretty
say
insane.
enough
This album
good about it.
is just like a work of art. Like it is just like crazy. And Daft Punk really like spared no expense in just bringing incredible people together, incredible equipment. I mean, it's like this is one of the greatest albums. This album's so good.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of music critics like call this one of the greatest albums of all time.
It is amazing.
Um,
Yeah, there's every single one of these songs on this album is just like incredible. Like there's none of these I mean every single one of them is just amazing. Every
I
single one of
think,
them.
yeah, I think maybe my favorite is "Doing It Right."
Yeah, doing it right.
Um,
I love that song.
I don't know, dude. Uh, "Game of Love" and "Instant Crush." "Instant Crush" is great.
Yeah.
And then "Lose Yourself to Dance"
Yeah, I
with
love that one.
Pharrell. It's such like it's like a disco song.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. Um,
Yeah. Dude, I
like,
this album.
if you're listening to Daft Punk for the first time, well, I always recommend people to listen to their like first stuff and then their newest stuff. But if you're not sure that you're gonna like electronic dance music, listen to this album first.
Yeah.
Either that or Discovery. Those two albums
Yeah.
are the albums that you should listen to first. And I would leave Homework and why am I blanking? I always blank on the name of the other one.
Discovery?
No, Human After All.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those two are like a little more experimental and like niche. But and also the movie soundtrack.
Yeah. That one's definitely like if you listen to the movie soundtrack, you're not going to get a good idea of what Daft Punk sounds like because it's very different, but it is still amazing. And if you watch the movie, like the music mixes perfectly with the visuals cuz I think one thing Tron gets really well is the visuals are just amazing. Like the universe they made, so cool. And the music just like fits it perfect. Like
yeah, it does.
I
It really does.
honestly wish Daft Punk had done more like soundtrack related stuff with movies.
They actually did.
Really?
I'm not sure what movies, but I know they didn't like solely do it, but they
Yeah.
like had a helping hand in some other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
That's cool.
I forgot to mention when we were speaking about Discovery, back in 2003, they released a movie for Discovery,
Yeah.
called Interstellar 5555. Yeah, 5555. And it's so cool. Like it's like anime pretty much.
Yeah.
Which I'm not really into.
It's like a retro 80s anime too. Like it's really cool.
And it's supposed to pretty much show like the death of them as humans, and they get reborn as robots.
I thought it was the other way around. Like they were aliens and they turn into humans.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Never mind. Never mind.
Which is interesting because the next album is Human After All.
Yeah. That's true. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's really sick. So that it's a really interesting movie to watch, and like the music to it just like is makes it so cool. My favorite part is like the big room with like all the records, like all the golden records just like going like up. I need to watch it again because I'm not remembering everything like perfectly, obviously.
I've seen it only once, like all the way
Same.
through.
Same.
But it is pretty awesome. And with the music, I mean, it's really good.
Yeah, and they actually released another movie for Human After All.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the movie doesn't actually have any. Well, that's not true. If you. Why can I not speak right now? You can line Human After All, the album, up to this movie, and it will, like, kind of go with it. Like, if you line it up perfectly, it will, like, all the transitions will line up, and and stuff like that. And I really want to watch it and try to line it up. It's just so hard to find that movie.
Yeah, it's
Like
really odd
it's
too. It's definitely like a more experimental film.
I've not seen any of it.
I've
So,
seen only clips. I've never watched it all the way through, but yeah, it is really hard to find.
yeah. So hopefully one day I can get a copy of it. I'm
Yeah.
sure like the prices have like skyrocketed now
Oh,
for
I'm
like all
positive.
of Daft
Yeah,
Punk's
yeah,
all of Daft Punk stuff. Um but I mean like besides like all the albums, like the weekend stuff that happened in 2016
yeah,
happened in 2016. Like they were already popular, and then with them doing the stuff with the weekend, that brought in a new generation of listeners.
yeah,
That brought in like the Gen Z listeners
yeah.
that really appreciate their music now.
Dude,
Which
their
is
work.
really cool.
I did you know this? But like, they made both of those songs like in just a few days. Starboy
Yeah,
and
yeah, they
what's the other one? I'm blanking on the name of it. There's Starboy and I
I
Feel It
am
Coming.
too. Yeah,
That's what it
that
is.
one's my
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah. I like that one
Um,
more for sure.
I I listened to a interview with The Weeknd, and he was talking about like them making those two songs,
Yeah,
and he was like, "Yeah, like I had like known them a little bit before. Like we were friends. We'd go like party and stuff, and so like making music was just super easy with them. And I think they made both of those songs like within a day,
yeah. Well, what's crazy is
which is
okay. So he went in to
wild.
record. The Weeknd went in to record. I Feel It Coming, right? And that was
Hmm.
the only one that he was gonna do. And then he heard one of the two um, start playing this beat, which was the beat for Starboy.
Did you
And
listen to this interview too?
I probably did. I
You
probably
probably
did.
did because you're pretty much quoting it right now.
But like, I probably listened to the same interview you did. But like, he heard it and was like, okay, I have to. This has to be my song. And so he recorded the words to. I think he wrote the words to Starboy in like a couple hours, and
Yeah,
recorded it, and
yeah.
the rest is history. I mean, and that became like a big single, and then his album opener, like it was just like wild, man.
Yeah, he wasn't even going to include it on the album.
And then it became the album, literally.
Yeah, that's like one of his biggest songs of all time.
Yeah, yeah,
That drum loop on that
dude,
song
it's
though,
so good.
it like rocks hard.
Oh man, it's crazy. One thing I want to mention, going back a little bit to Random Access Memories, is I feel like the most slept on song on that album is Touch, featuring Paul
Touch is
Williams.
great.
Like,
Yeah.
I think to a lot of people it's really weird. Like, it's really weird. It's a weird song.
Mhm.
But like the story behind it, like apparently Paul Williams had like a big problem with alcoholism. He was
Oh,
like coming off
interesting.
of that. And so a lot of the song is just talking about like getting off of alcohol and like sobering up, and like it's like kind of explaining what that feels like to him. Which when you listen to the song, you can definitely get that. Like
Yeah,
you can really get that.
I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Because it's pretty crazy. But yeah,
That's cool.
there's that song is so dynamic. I love it. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, like they're part of their brilliance, and a lot of my favorite artists do this too, is their mystery. Like some of the greatest artists today are just really mysterious. Like you don't know what they're doing. They don't like post on social media every day.
Yeah,
Um, and like they just cover their faces for the majority of their career for like over 20 years. Um, which is so interesting, and it really speaks to their character. But if I don't know, it's really interesting. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like we could never hear from either of them ever again. Or we also could like, I don't think this is gonna happen, but I'm hopeful that it's gonna happen. We could get like an album this summer or something.
Who knows?
This could just
them.
be like,
Who knows?
This could just be like propaganda to like get them some attention. I do doubt that though.
It'd be really cool if they came back as like a different group.
Yeah.
If
they
like
like
this
branch
was
into
like
a new
more
genre.
like a metamorphosis, yeah, of like their music. Like they're done with like this thing, they're gonna do something different. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm almost positive they're not done, because music is just like so their life and like what they love.
I don't know. I really hope you're right, but it's I don't know. Like they could like just go into music or go into movie scores and do that sort of thing, or they could, like you said, they could do something totally new.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see how it plays out. And I mean, like we didn't hear from them for years. The last we heard of them was in 2016 when they performed with The Weeknd at the Grammys.
Yeah.
And then like,
for like
4
5
years later,
years. Like
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, like 5 years nothing. That's weird.
And like they didn't their last performance that like their last like touring performance was in 2007. Which is that's insane. Like it makes the band seem so much older than they are.
Yeah. Man.
Like I was 9 years old when they stopped touring.
Dude, I was 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what? That's crazy to think about. Like
I know.
Man.
But we're really thankful for like what we did get, and thankful for like their legacy. And we really just wanted to make this to like pay homage to them and kind of commemorate their legacy.
Yeah. I definitely think like as far as music goes, Daft Punk is like the thing that we share like the most in common when it comes to like our music taste.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't even know what I was saying, really.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, no, their stuff's just so good.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else to say?
Not really.
I kind of feel like I'm forgetting something.
Probably. I mean, there's so much we could talk about with Daft Punk, but we are trying to keep this one shorter, even though we're almost at an hour right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah. We're never gonna have a short episode. Like,
no, sorry guys. All right, then let's move on to the favorites of the week.
Yeah.
Do a speed round. I came prepared this week. I didn't like panic like
literally
right before we started recording.
I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. Like I always know,
God.
but this time I don't quite know.
Well, mine, I have really been loving Netflix picking up iCarly.
Yeah.
I've been binge watching iCarly for the past week. And I'm excited for the reboot. I hope they don't make it stupid like a lot of reboots are. Like the Full House reboot was terrible.
Yeah.
So I hope it's not like that. But I think it's gonna like gear itself a little more to like people our age that like watch the show and like now will like hopefully enjoy the reboot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nathan Kress though, he does not look the same. I don't know if you've seen a picture of him or
Who did he
anything
play?
recently. He played Freddy.
I don't even remember Freddy.
The camera guy. What?
Oh,
Did you even watch
yeah,
iCarly?
yeah. Dude, I watched iCarly, but like it's been years. Like
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I watched all the time. Like, I've seen, like, quite a few episodes. Like, a lot. But I don't know. It was okay to me. I wasn't, like, huge into it. But
Yeah.
I definitely, like, I remember I watched it.
Cool. Well, what do you have for us? Anything?
Yeah. So I was just pulling it up. I I was kind of thinking about including this as the thing of the week. It's not something new to me. I've definitely been listening to this for a while. But since we're on the topic of Daft Punk, I just wanted to bring up this other artist and this other album that, like, it's kind of funny. This album, everybody's heard it. Like, a lot of people have heard this album, but you probably don't realize it. Just because it's been used by a lot of YouTube people. Like, these songs are all over YouTube. And it's like, it's similar to Daft Punk stuff. If you like Daft Punk, you will like this artist and you will like this album. But it's more of like this synthwave, vaporwave genre of music than it is like straight up EDM. But yeah, it's called, the album's called Odyssey, and it's by a musician called Home. I don't know anything about Home, but I love this album.
How is Home spelled? Like how it is normally spelled?
Yeah, Home. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I've heard of them.
You have got to listen to this album. Like, I don't know anything about the musician. I don't know anything about the album. Like, this, but, like, everybody has heard of Resonance. And if you listen to Resonance, it's towards the end of the album. If you listen to Resonance, you will probably be like, I've heard this from somewhere. Because you probably have. It's definitely that kind of song. But it is just, like, such a... People talk about this album saying that it weirdly creates a sense of nostalgia within you.
Interesting.
And it is a beautiful album.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it, but just listen to the whole album. Listen to Resonance first, then listen to the whole album, because the whole album is just really beautiful. But it reminds me of, like, something that Daft Punk would do. It's definitely similar, but it's still, like, in its own genre, and it's definitely different. But it's another album that, like, I'll go through, like, phases of listening to them and not listening to them. But yeah, Odyssey is the best album they've done in my opinion. All the other albums I haven't really gotten into too much. I've listened to, like, a few songs in them, but it's just, this album's really good, and it came out in 2014. Nice. So it's an album, if you like Daft Punk and you want something more, I definitely recommend Home and Odyssey. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely give it a listen. But okay, thank you guys for listening. Sorry again, it's a long episode. Maybe we'll do better.
I think our
maybe
shortest
we won't.
episode so far, so that's good.
Yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. It's still really long.
But if you haven't already followed us on Instagram, go do so. The link will be in the show notes here, and the Instagram for the podcast. Share it with your family. Share it with your neighbors.
Share with your dog.
Friends.
Get your dog.
Share with your dogs. Share it with your cats.
Yeah.
Our cat ratings are going through the roof right now. God.
What are we doing? Our cat ratings.
So yeah, just spread the on-mind word.
Yeah, man. It's good stuff.
But we appreciate you guys listening, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you guys.